Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. How's everyone doing? How's your week been? So lately work's been crazy busy for me, but you know what's been on my mind? Testing something out. Does Volibear's Q reset if he gets crowd control during his ultimate animation? Pretty intriguing, right? So diving back into this awesome game, I stumbled upon something even better than my initial idea. Riot actually did something good for once. Ain't that a surprise? They finally gave Mordekaiser the attention he deserves. Can't lie, that change totally made my day. Props to all you Morde mains out there, even though I'm not one of them. In my humble opinion, this change is a step in the right direction for League of Legends. Why? Well, when the caster says Realm of Death, someone's gotta bite the dust, right? It just wouldn't be right to use an item to escape that fate for free. Plus, it adds a whole new dynamic to the game. Now we can call for a 4v4 whenever we want for 7 seconds. And just because you don't win the 5v5 doesn't mean you'll lose the smaller skirmishes. Picture this. A Lulu player disappears for 7 seconds, leaving Morde to do his thing with the mace. That's gonna shake things up. So whenever you've got a problem, just think of Mordekaiser's ultimate might just solve it for you. As for the other changes, they're kinda meh, not gonna lie. But hey, here's to hoping for a brighter future, right? Okay, back to this wonderful game. So here's an interesting twist. Me and Mr. Blindness ended up on the same side. Just when I thought I'd create a great video explaining some techniques, this happened. But fear not, starting like this actually sets us up for what's to come. If things go smoothly and we both keep farming, I'll be ahead by a camp, giving me the upper hand in gold, experience, and control. In his mind, I took something that's rightfully his, but in mine, I simply allowed him to farm the other 5 camps. That's the difference between us junglers. Thankfully, my team collapsed on him, and we managed to secure a huge early game lead. However, there's a catch. All that lead is concentrated on one player who's reckless and solely focused on chasing kills. It's a common scenario when playing with teammates who don't often get ahead. They believe these moments are the only ones worth enjoying in the game. But let me tell you, if your enjoyment hinges solely on that, you won't last much longer than your average person with ADHD. You need to tie your enjoyment to something achievable every game, whether it's a solid plan or some outstanding gameplay. Now here's a little secret about my feelings as a player. I fear no champion except for one. When there's a Yasuo on my team, I can't help it. My mind just plunges into darkness and despair. That champion isn't really a champion. He's just luring you into thinking what he does is skill. He's only effective in some console game, and I'm stretching it there. He dashes around, uses wind as a shield, occasionally gains a shield from his kit, pokes enemies with his Q, and tosses tornadoes while facing off against some homeless dude or an alien fighting with a lamp. And to top it off, he's got a bear that uses thunder on his team. One of us needs to change the game, and I vote for Yasuo to have his own dedicated game. Something like Yasuo Must Die. It could be about a samurai who lost his way and now serves as the bodyguard of a brother being chased by Ari or something like that. You see, sometimes Riot's balance and design team leave me scratching my head. Either they create a perfect champion fit for an MMORPG, or they introduce a crazy champ that doesn't belong among these so-called legends in the first place. Thankfully, my bet's on Echo. He's sitting on the most gold right now, and I'm counting on him to carry us through the late game when things get messy. And if you're wondering what could possibly go wrong, just take a look at their team. It's like they've crafted the most frustrating lineup ever. I call it the abusive family comp. We've got the mom who roots her kids in place so their dad can stare them down to death. The useless uncle wandering around with a lamp. The big brother who's still rocking the shirtless look from the 80s. And let's not forget about the weirdo putting on makeup and chatting with his imaginary pals. Yeah, I'm talking about Ezreal. So basically, we've got a bunch of characters who refuse to commit to any serious team fights. They just keep poking us to death. And if we dare to engage, it's a chain of crowd control waiting for us. And if, by some miracle, we survive that, Sir Lee Sin will happily kick us right back into our own team, maybe taking one of our own out in the process. So yeah, this game is a tough nut to crack with our lineup, and we've got to come up with a plan to pull off a win. My initial idea is to turn Echo into a split-pushing threat, while the rest of us serve as bait. Of course, not everyone may be on board with that plan, which is why our job right now is to break the enemy's morale, force them into grouping up, and only engage when we've got the upper hand. And if things aren't in our favor, well, we just keep farming until the right opportunity comes along. Games like these require a boatload of patience, not flashy skills or genius decision-making. The smartest move right now might just be to make no move at all unless we're certain we've got the win in the bag. Now that we've got our game plan mapped out, there's one last thing we need to address before we dive in. Our bot side diagnosis isn't looking too hot. Our supposed AD carry? Yeah, turns out they're not exactly carrying anything, let alone being an AD carry. They're either auto-filled or just haven't quite grasped how ranged champions are supposed to work. When you're faced with a situation like this, where one of your allies is about as useless as the UUE in solo QA, and you're not exactly ahead yourself, you're left with one option: level the playing field by making the enemies on that side just as useless as our own ally. Now, if we end up biting the dust in the process, no biggie. The key thing here is to shatter the illusion that the enemy team is safe. It's a golden rule, really. Most AD carries strut around like they're royalty, expecting respect, protection, and all the farm in the world. even when they haven't earned it. It's like being in the presence of some noble lineage. But hey, since we're rolling with a thunder-using, half-naked bear who couldn't care less about formalities, we're going to do what we do best. Take out anyone in our path, leaving a trail of tilt in our wake, and do it all with a big, happy grin on our faces. I got to admit, even though the scoreboard makes it look like we're stomping, we're actually holding up better against their lineup than I thought we would. I guess in the middle of the week, everyone's feeling that burnout, including yours truly, but I can sense it in my bones. Our supposed lead is slipping away bit by bit. In games like these, I'm not fazed by dying. The real problem is that we're not making any headway or putting any pressure on them. So, I'm going to shift gears and go for some team play since Echo doesn't seem keen on split pushing. Tough times, no doubt about it. Let's see how we navigate through this from here on out. Well, that didn't go as expected at all. Both Hisagi and Echo bit the dust before the fight even properly started. I really hope they keep QSS applicable on Malzahar's ultimate because, let me tell you, that's not a fun way to die. Just standing there, staring at the abyss, waiting to kick the bucket out of sheer boredom. And even if the enemy team got disconnected while caught in that ultimate and came back, they'd still have time left to deal damage and finish you off. That's why, Riot. Please don't just copy and paste changes. Take some time to really consider which champions need an upgrade and which ones need a rework. What irks me about this game is that the main person with a lead is urging us to group and fight, whereas I'd prefer if he split and we applied pressure elsewhere, given that our allies aren't pulling their weight. But hey, let's take a leap of faith and hope this decision won't come back to bite us in the ass later on. For now, I'll stick with Echo and try to create the perfect setup for him to wipe their team. Well, it looks like our team has split into two squads, and Nami made a wise choice. We've got the physically and mentally challenged squad with Hisagi and Zaya, and then there's the suicide squad with me, Lady Sushi, and Echo. There's a famous saying that goes, if you're useless, they can't use you. That saying holds true most of the time. Unless there's a Yasuo on your team, we can either use him as bait to trick the enemy into wasting their resources on him, or the enemy can use him to give themselves a false sense of confidence and lure us into engaging and dying miserably after him. That's why every game with a Yasuo in it is a unique and special moment in League of Legends. You might see me making bold, reckless calls not out of confidence, but out of fear that Yasuo will swoop in and ruin everything before we even have a chance to turn the fight in our favor. This death was justified and right on point. We got an inhibitor, and Echo didn't give away his shutdown. Sure, I could have relied on the minions to finish it off, but I wouldn't want to leave it to chance in times like these. Plus, the matchup against Jax as Volibear is a bit weird. His counter-strike absorbs your Q ability, your bite, and of course your auto attacks. I found out that the only counter to his gameplay is to use your E spell to mitigate the damage after his shield, or do the unthinkable and tell Riot straight to their face, to hell with your nerfs. Lately, after a bit of practice, I've managed to mitigate a lot of crowd control with the use of my ultimate animation. Skill expression, my ass. The only skill I have is the sheer will to play against the monstrosity of champions that have unlimited dashes, sustain, and infinite crowd control. At this stage of the game, it's become really hard to group because one of us will die, and all my allies are expecting that person to be me. Well, if I'm going to die, at least I'll choose how and when. A glorious death for the cause must be spectacular until the end. Just a tiny mini bit of luck, but it was a good try nevertheless. The silver lining is that I managed to snag their summoner spells for free, if you ask me. With that play, I've placed the fate of the game in Echo's hands, and hopefully, he'll wrap up this slow march toward victory against that horrifying composition. Well, surprise, surprise, we're still in this game. This one's entirely on me. I never expected them all to come gunning for Yasuo like that. I was thinking maybe 3 of them, and I'd try to create some space for him to escape, or maybe even turn the tables in a 2v3 scenario. But nope. It was total annihilation. The Jax even burned his teleport just to come and take Yasuo down. I reckon in the early game, Yasuo must have said something downright awful about Jax's parents or his appearance. Still, now we've got an open nexus, and I wouldn't be myself if I didn't try to sneak in for a backdoor. One of the most exhilarating moments of all my gaming life is when I'm going for that nexus. Like my body kicks into overdrive mode to finish the game while I'm just sitting there playing an online match. It's like an epic workout mode, I might say. But alas, that fake Gojo Satoru copy got me with just one spell. And to add insult to injury, I've endured 3 nerfs in a row for a fluffy bear. Talk about overkill from that balance team. I don't know how we pulled through that, but we did our job perfectly. My jungle senses are still sharp, and we managed to soak up all of their heavy hitters. It's a satisfying moment. Second only to backdooring, when you fulfill your role as a frontline engage bruiser. Draw all the attention, absorb the damage and crowd control, and if you're lucky, survive. The only crappy situation that could happen to us right now is if my team can't dish out enough damage to even the odds. And that's exactly what usually goes down in these parts. That sight hurts just from the looks of it. Damn, it's like he finished watching The Godfather before meeting the Angel of Death. From that play, it seems like the linchpin for the enemy team is Malzahar. And without him, we might actually stand a chance. And lo and behold, after dishing out all the mistakes in this game, I finally get a freebie handed to us on a silver platter. And who's there to cash in on the benefits? You guessed it, the Suicide Squad. I'm sure after that play, everyone was flaming Malzahar, even though he's the main reason the enemy team is still in this game. This match was packed with action on both sides, I won't lie. The funny thing is, Echo's E-spell in the late game can outsmite both me and Lee Sin at the same time. Now that's what I call impeccable character design. I'm sure August would take one look at it and tell you it's perfectly fine. And that's exactly how that spell should work against monsters. But enough ranting for one game. As usual, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I encourage you to do the usual. Leave a comment, drop a like, and if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and as always, take care and have a great weekend. Peace.